What if I told you that 90 days from now you could be a completely different person? Not a better version of the same patterns. Not the same reactions with a new label. A different person. Because here's what most people won't say out loud. You wake up tired before the day even starts. You react to things instead of deciding them. Your temper flares before your brain catches up. You say yes when you mean no. You put the phone down and pick it right back up. You know exactly what you should be doing and you're doing something else. That's not weakness. That's a pattern. And patterns are just habits wearing armor. The worst part isn't the pattern itself. It's the moment you catch yourself in it again and you feel that dull ache of recognition. You've been here before. You told yourself last time would be the last time. So why does it keep happening? In this video I'm going to show you exactly how to break that pattern in 90 days, using the philosophy of the most undefeated warrior in Japanese history. A man who won over 60 life or death duels and died with his pen in his hand. Miyamoto Musashi. Stay until the end because what he discovered about the reactive mind will change how you see every single morning you have left. Picture the road between Kyoto and Edo in the early 1600s. Japan is bleeding, the Sengoku period has chewed through generations of men. The country is patched together under Tokugawa rule, but the old fires still burn underneath. Ronin wander the roads without masters. Entire schools of swordsmanship claim dominance over one another. Duels are not sport, they are final. Into this world walks a man who will not lose. Miyamoto Musashi is 21 years old when he arrives in Kyoto. And he does something almost suicidal. He challenges the Yoshioka school, not one of them, the whole school. The Yoshioka family have been sword instructors to the Ashikaga shogunate for generations. They are established, respected, feared. And Musashi, a wandering ronin with no school, no master, no title, walks into their world and calls them out. The first duel is against Seijiro Yoshioka, the head of the school. Musashi arrives late, deliberately. He has studied something that most swordsmen never think to study, not technique, psychology. He knows that a man who waits becomes a different man than the one who arrived. The mind untethered from the present moment starts to drift. It reaches backward into fear and forward into outcome. And a drifting mind, Musashi understood, is a dead mind before the sword ever moves. He calls this mushin, no mind. Not the absence of thought, something far more difficult. The absence of attachment to thought. Feel what that means for a moment. You've experienced the opposite of mushin. You're in an argument and you stop hearing what the other person is saying because you're already constructing your response. You're at work and your body is at the desk but your mind is cycling through the conversation from this morning that didn't go the way you wanted. You're with your family and you're somewhere else entirely. That gap between where you are and where your mind is, that gap is where your life leaks out. Musashi trained to close that gap, every single day. Not when he felt like it. Not when conditions were perfect, every day. Because he knew that the man who shows up to battle still dragging yesterday behind him is already defeated. Seijiro Yoshioka meets him on the dueling ground. The weight has done its work. He is agitated, humiliated in front of his students, desperate to reclaim authority. His mind is loud with all of that. Musashi's mind is empty. The duel ends in a single exchange. Seijiro is left crippled, his school diminished. But the Yoshioka school doesn't stop. They send Densichiro, the younger brother. Musashi defeats him too, this time killing him outright. And now the school is enraged past pride. They gather, dozens of them. Some accounts say over 100. They set an ambush at Ichijoji, meaning to end this wanderer once and for all. Musashi goes anyway. This is the part that matters. This is where most men stop and ask why. Why walk into an ambush? Why not disappear? He had already proven himself twice. Because Musashi lived by a second principle, one that sits beneath mushin like bedrock. He called it fudoshin, immovable mind. Not stubbornness. Not recklessness. The capacity to face overwhelming opposition without the inner landscape shifting beneath your feet. To look at 100 swords and feel your center hold. Fudoshin is what so many men today are starving for. And don't have a name for. It's the thing that disappears when your teenage son pushes back and you explode instead of standing steady. It's what you lose when the quarterly numbers come in bad and you can't sleep for a week. It's what goes missing when someone challenges you in a meeting and your face gives you away before you open your mouth. The reactive pattern. The one that keeps repeating. That is fudoshin that has never been built. At Ichijoji, Musashi walks into the ambush before dawn. He uses the darkness, the terrain, the element of their own preparation against them. He kills the young Yoshioka heir, cuts through the outer ring of attackers and disappears into the early morning. One man. into 100, out the other side. He does not do this because he is fearless. He does it because through years of deliberate practice, a practice the Japanese call shugyo, he has built an interior structure that doesn't collapse under pressure. Shugyo is not casual training. It is austere, relentless self-discipline. Not for 1 month, not for 1 season, for years, decades. The daily return to the hard thing, especially when nothing in you wants to return to it. This is what modern men skip. They find the right program. They start with intensity. Then around day 30 the initial electricity fades, and without that feeling they tell themselves something is wrong. That maybe this wasn't the right approach, that they'll recalibrate and restart. But Musashi understood that the fading of excitement is not a signal to stop. It is the beginning of real training, because real transformation doesn't happen in the inspired moments. It happens in the unglamorous ones. The morning you wake up stiff and tired and do the work anyway. The conversation where every reactive impulse fires and you breathe through it instead of detonating. The evening where you put the phone down and stay with the discomfort of your own thoughts long enough to actually think them. He wrote in the Dokudo, his final document composed just days before his death at 62, these words: "Do not let yourself be guided by the feeling of lust or love." He is not speaking only of romance. He is speaking of the tyranny of feeling in general. The way we let our internal weather determine our external actions. The way a bad morning becomes a bad day, becomes a bad week, because we mistake our mood for our identity. This is the third concept Musashi embodied. The Japanese call it heijoshin, ordinary mind. The mental state you bring to ordinary moments, carried intact into extraordinary ones. Imagine this: Musashi, before the most famous duel of his life, the confrontation with Sasaki Kojiro on Ganru Island in 1612, does something almost incomprehensible. He arrives hours late to a duel that has drawn spectators from across the region. Kojiro, considered by many to be the greatest swordsman alive, has been waiting in the sun, anger building with every passing minute. Most men would arrive rushing, apologizing, heart-pounding, off balance before the duel even begins. Musashi arrives eating rice, still chewing. He carves his wooden sword from the oar of the boat on the crossing over. He steps onto the beach, unhurried, and the duel is over almost before it begins. He wins because Kojiro arrives at the peak of his agitation, and Musashi arrives in his ordinary state. Heijoshin, the ordinary mind, undisturbed, that is the thing worth building. Not the extraordinary performance on the good days, the consistent, grounded presence on the ordinary ones, because the ordinary days are most of your life. The Tuesday morning when everything feels flat, the Thursday evening when you're depleted and short-tempered and the people you love are within range. Who are you on those days? That is the real question. Musashi spent his entire life answering through action, not philosophy. He wrote in the Book of 5 Rings, the strategy text that Japanese business leaders still study today. This: you must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain. He is saying that the method matters less than the commitment, that there is no single perfect practice, only consistent return to practice. The man who shows up imperfectly every day will, over 90 days, outrun the man who waits for the perfect conditions to begin. Musashi never waited. He trained in the forests alone. He meditated in caves. He practiced his strokes in the dark, by feel, until technique became instinct. Not because a teacher told him to, because he had looked clearly at the man he was, and decided, without drama or announcement, to become someone else. And that decision, quiet and total, is available to you right now. A man in his mid-40s notices it on a Tuesday. Not a dramatic moment, just a Tuesday. His youngest asks him a question at dinner, and he answers sharply, barely looking up from his phone. His son goes quiet. And in that half-second of quiet, the man sees himself from the outside for the first time in a long time. This isn't who I said I was going to be. He doesn't announce a transformation. He doesn't buy a program or tell his wife he's changing. He picks one thing. One daily practice. 30 minutes before anyone else wakes up. He doesn't evaluate whether it's working. He just shows up. The first 2 weeks are uncomfortable in ways he didn't expect. The silence in the morning reveals thoughts he'd been too busy to hear. Old resentments. Anxieties that scroll on repeat. The backlog of everything he'd been reacting to instead of actually feeling. He stays with it. By the end of the first month, the silence stops feeling like a problem and starts feeling like a resource. He begins to notice just slightly the gap between stimulus and response. The moment between his son's question and his answer. The breath before he speaks in a difficult meeting. Small gaps, barely perceptible, but real. 3 months later, something has shifted in his body. He has lost weight, not because he went on a diet, but because the late-night numbing, the drink that used to help him decompress, has quietly lost its appeal. He is sleeping differently, harder. He wakes up before the alarm with something that isn't quite energy yet, but is the absence of dread. He is less tired. Not because his circumstances have changed, because he is no longer spending the hidden tax of constant reactivity. The energy that used to burn off in sharp words and regret is staying with him now, circulating, building. His wife says something to him one evening offhand, not intending it as a big moment. She says, "You seem quieter lately." She pauses. Good quiet. He doesn't explain the mornings. He doesn't explain Musashi. He just nods, because the work was never about being seen. It was about becoming someone who could be still inside himself when everything outside was moving fast. He is not finished. He knows that. Musashi was never finished. But he is different from the man who looked up from his phone on that Tuesday. And the difference didn't come from a breakthrough moment. It came from 90 mornings one at a time of choosing presence over avoidance, discipline over comfort, the hard thing over the easy one. That is the only formula there is. Musashi lived over 6 decades in a country soaked in violence and managed to die in his bed, undefeated, pen in hand. Not because he was born exceptional, because he understood something most men spend their whole lives avoiding. That the most dangerous opponent you will ever face is not across from you in any room. He is behind your own eyes. He is the version of you that reacts before he thinks, that reaches for comfort before he reaches for discipline, that talks about changing instead of becoming changed. Musashi defeated that opponent every single morning, one day at a time, one practice at a time. You have the same opponent. You have the same capacity. The warrior's path is not about perfection. It is about return. The daily, unheroic, unglamorous return to the thing that makes you harder to break and easier to trust. In the small moments. At the dinner table. In the silence before you speak. 90 days. One practice. No announcements. Begin. If you found insight in this video, please subscribe for more videos to help you along your path. And a question to carry with you. In the gap between what provokes you and how you respond, who do you want to be? Thank you for watching. See you next time. And as always, remember to stay in tune with your own mind frequency.